I never imagined the day would come when my own family would become the villains in my mother's story. But betrayal doesn't arrive with thunder. It slips quietly into the cracks of trust. And sometimes the people we defend the most are the ones stealing from us behind closed doors. This is the story of how my mother's medical savings vanished, and how the truth that followed nearly destroyed us. My mother, Marilyn, was the kind of woman who'd give you her last dollar even if it meant she went hungry. She worked double shifts for years, saving every penny for her medical care, because she knew one day her health would decline. But what she didn't know was that someone she trusted was waiting to take advantage of her weakest moment. And when the day came, they didn't hesitate. The beginning, a home filled with fear. The morning everything started, the house felt strange. Too quiet, almost heavy. Mom had been sick the night before, coughing so badly she could barely catch her breath. I was making tea for her when she whispered, "Caleb, check my savings book in the drawer." I nodded, expecting nothing unusual. But the moment I opened the little wooden drawer where she kept all her important documents, I felt my chest tighten. The space where her medical savings book always sat was empty. Not misplaced, not moved. Gone. I froze. "Mom, are you sure you didn't take it out recently?" She shook her head weakly. "No, I haven't touched it for months." Her voice trembled, and so did mine, because I already knew something was wrong. But I had no idea how deep the betrayal ran. The vanished money, a door to darker truths. My mother had saved for years, over 68,000 medical funds, money she needed for tests, treatment, and medications that insurance didn't fully cover. That account was everything, her lifeline, her security, her hope. But when we managed to access her online banking, the number staring back at us nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. 06, that was all that remained. The rest, withdrawn in a series of transfers. Over the last 6 months, Mom covered her mouth, horrified. "Caleb, someone stole everything." Not someone, not a stranger. Someone close, someone who had access, someone who knew her PIN, someone who knew she trusted her family too much. My hand shook as I scrolled through the transaction. Repeated withdrawals, transfers, and then the name, a joint account holder, Victor Hayes, my uncle, my mother's own brother, a man she adored, a man she helped raise, a man who stayed in our house whenever life knocked him down. He was the last person she would ever suspect, which meant he was the perfect thief. The lie that broke us. When we confronted him, he didn't even look guilty. He sat in our living room like he still had the right to be there, leaning back, smirking, playing innocent. "What money?" he asked casually. Mom's voice cracked. "My medical savings. You emptied the account." He shrugged. "It was a family account. I needed the money. I'll pay it back. Eventually. Like he had taken a few dollars instead of her entire medical future. Mom's hands were trembling. "Victor, that money was for my treatments. You know that." He rolled his eyes. "You worry too much." "You'll be fine." The audacity. The cruelty. The coldness. I stood up, fists clenched. "You stole from a sick woman. Your own sister." He smirked again. "I had every right to use it. She gave me access. That means she trusted me." I wanted to shout. I wanted to break something, but Mom's tears said everything. The man she trusted most had crushed her without flinching. He walked out of our house that day with no guilt. But he didn't leave alone. He left carrying the last of our peace, the decline when stress became her enemy. Mom's health began to worsen rapidly. Stress can be more poisonous than any disease, and this betrayal nearly swallowed her whole. Her blood pressure shot up. Her migraines intensified. She couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe properly. Every appointment, every test, every medication became nearly impossible without her savings. And relatives? They stayed silent. Some even whispered that Mom was exaggerating. Others said, "It's family. Don't make it a big deal." But stealing $68,000 from a sick woman is not a family matter. It is cruelty. It is abuse. It is a crime. The investigation turning pain into proof. I decided that if the family wanted to protect him, then the law would not. I contacted the bank, gathered every document, every transaction log, every recorded call. We discovered the truth. Uncle Victor had added himself as a joint holder by forging Mom's signature at the time she was recovering from a surgery years ago. He used her trust as his weapon. It wasn't just theft. It was documented deliberate fraud. The bank investigator told me quietly, "You have enough here to file criminal charges." I looked at Mom. Her eyes were tired, but behind the exhaustion, there was something else. Pain turning into resolve. "Do it," she whispered. And that was the moment this story changed forever. The legal war, a family divided. When the lawsuit papers reached him, he exploded. He called. He screamed. He threatened. But we didn't back down. For years, Mom had let people walk over her kindness. Not this time. The court hearings were brutal. Relatives sided with him, claiming we were overreacting. He pretended she had gifted him the money. But the forged signatures, the time-stamped withdrawals, and the bank officer's testimony destroyed his lies like fire-eating paper. Watching him crumble on the courtroom stand was the first moment Mom breathed freely in months. Her voice was soft but steady when she said, "I trusted you more than anyone, and you used it to steal the only security I had left." He didn't even look at her. He hung his head. Not from shame, but because his game was finally over. The verdict. Justice arrives quietly. The judge ruled in our favor. Full repayment, penalties, and charges for fraud. The courtroom was silent. Victor didn't speak. Relatives didn't speak. Only Mom's tears spoke, not from sadness, but from the relief of being heard after a lifetime of being ignored. And for the first time in a long time, she stood a little straighter. The rebuilding, when freedom feels like air. The money was returned, slowly, legally, forcefully, but something far more important returned with it. Mom's dignity, her strength, her voice. She said to me one evening, "I thought betrayal would break me, but it taught me something. Never give access to people who don't respect your life." Her treatments resumed. Her health stabilized. Her smile came back piece by piece. Our home, once filled with fear and disappointment, began to feel alive again. The final reveal, a secret we never expected. Just when we thought the worst was behind us, another truth surfaced, one that shook me deeper than the theft itself. Mom told me something she had never told anyone. "Caleb, he wasn't just stealing from me. He was stealing from your father too." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" She swallowed. "Before your father died, he left money aside for us. He trusted Victor to help manage it, because he didn't want me overwhelmed." I felt my blood run cold. That money was part of the savings he stole? She nodded. And suddenly everything made sense. Why Victor always avoided talking about Dad. Why he always discouraged Mom from checking her accounts. Why he kept insisting he deserved the money. He hadn't just stolen from a sick woman. He stole from a dead man. And that betrayal was far beyond forgiveness. Ending the suspenseful close. We don't speak to him anymore. The family stays divided. Some blame us. Some blame him. But the truth? The day he chose greed over blood was the day he cut himself from our lives. Mom is stronger now, not because of what happened, but because she refused to stay silent in the face of betrayal. She reclaimed her money. She reclaimed her dignity. And she reclaimed her peace. But sometimes, late at night, she asked me one question softly. How long was he planning to keep stealing? And every time, I realized the answer is darker than either of us want to admit. Because people like him don't stop until someone stops them. And in our case, that someone was my mother herself. She fought. She won. She survived. But the haunting truth remains. If her medical money hadn't disappeared that day, we might never have discovered the family betrayal that had been happening for years. And that is the part that still keeps me awake, because sometimes the first sign of betrayal is the moment you realize it didn't begin today. It began long before you ever noticed.